Welcome back, or welcome to the Tiny Shifts podcast. I'm your host, Andy Nunn. This week, I'm going to be breaking down my UTA race, what happened, how it all unfolded, and hopefully by the end of this, give you some insights on the mindset around doing hard things. This is part 4 of Wonderfully Uncomfortable. So let's begin. So leading into the race, just to recap, this is my third attempt at 100 miles. So the week before the race, I was super excited. This is the first time I've been going into a 100-mile race not being injured or having any other problems. I had a couple of events starting that week on Monday and Tuesday. And I remember at the end of the event on Monday night, on Tuesday morning, I had like a scratchy neck. And I guess I thought, is this a cold or is it just because I was shouting? And the Tuesday night, I began to lose my voice and I was like, okay, well, this is strange. Wednesday, some runny nose and began to get a bit of body aches and stuff like this. So by the time it was Thursday night leading into it, I felt a bit run down. I got some cold and flu tablets and, I was like, okay, well, I'll just ignore this, pretend it's not happening. And I remember waking up race morning. So race morning was Friday at 5 a.m. So I got up at 2 to have some breakfast. My nose was completely blocked. My throat, my body ached. So here we go. So anyway, I decided to race still. I was like, okay, well, we'll just take it easy. And that was my plan anyway. So I took some cold and flu, some nasal congestion spray, went to the race line and had some coffee. I was pretty excited. The weather wasn't that great, but it was fine. I made my way down to Govert Sleep. It was pitch black, so you can't see it, but it's incredible views in the Blue Mountains. And the race started. I started in the front group, but quite quickly I knew that my body was feeling the sort of sickness. Climbing up out of the Grand Canyon, my legs just felt so tired and so fatigued. But I just took it easy anyway. And the day ended up being pretty good, despite this feeling, like just deep fatigue in me. I was like, just take it easy. I ran every hill and I was being very controlled. My body felt pretty good. Before I knew it, I was getting into the 50K mark, seeing my friends there, and then my family, and my daughter was there with Jessica. And it was just such an incredible moment. My mum was crewing me. And I was really, really happy with it. I was like, okay, this is going well. And then I ran along to Narrowneck, which is about the 60K mark. And I was like to my mum, and meet me at the 6 foot. I'll be about 4 or 5 hours doing this 30K. And I just flew. Felt incredible. Even I remember doing this section. This section was the part where my race fell apart the year before because of injury. I got to the 90K mark, 6 foot track. And I was actually feeling pretty good. I was really hungry, but that was about it. Then I did the loop. So it's a 16K loop. And again, really controlled. It was dark by this point. I felt good. Managed to get enough energy in me. And then the next point was from 6 foot up to the aquatic center. So this is about 100 kilometers. And then this is where my race sort of started to fall to pieces. Coming out up into the 6 foot, climbing up Nelly's Glen. I started to get this pain at the front of my leg. Slowed me down quite a bit and I started to get really, really cold, even though it wasn't cold. Everyone was, it's like 15 degrees at night, which is crazy. And I just slowed down dramatically. The pain was getting a bit much. Got to aquatic center. My mum was there. And decided I need to stop, I need to eat, and I need to get warm. So I give myself a wash, put on some clothes, put on all my gear. I was like, okay, the next section's 7 kilometers. And that next section was it was already going to be difficult, but the front of my leg was just so sore. Couldn't control any of my body temperature. So I got into Fairmont, which is about 130 kilometers. And at this point, I was quite concerned about my leg. And I sort of spoke to the medic. They said it's just likely a tendon issue. I just couldn't get warm. They gave me a hot water bottle and I was shaking and shaking. And I was like, okay, I'm way above cutoff. And this is where sort of doubt started to creep in. I started to think, okay, well, if this is an injury, I've got to go down Kadumba. What do I do? And I was more concerned about the body temperature. So the injury didn't really concern me too much because I was like, well, I'll be fine. It's just tendon. But the thing that did bother me was the fact I was shaking so much. And after about 2 hours, I waited there 2 hours. I said I was going to sleep. I couldn't sleep, couldn't get warm. I tried to put the gear on, and then I said, I'm going to go out. I was stubbornly thinking I can just go out and do this, and I could see my mum's face because at this point, the fact I was just shaking so much, it was a big concern. I realized that carrying on was just stupid. Like, what was I really doing? But because this is my third time, because I've done this podcast, because of, all these sorts of things in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, what am I doing? I've got like 25 hours to do 30K. I could crawl to the end. But then realistically, like, is it worth it, the risk of injuring myself? So I pulled out. I wish I could just say it was just easy. And all this mindset stuff and all this, don't get focused on the outcome. Don't be somebody who just focus on the outcome of stuff and, make these decisions and all this stuff. But the truth is, it sucks. I feel awful, feel terrible. And I want so much. I just wanted to finish the race. And, I've just sat there and I've thought about it, and I realized that it was a really big risk carrying on. And initially, after a few days, I was like, okay, well, my legs started to feel a bit better, and I started to doubt. And I was like, oh, because I feel okay now, maybe I could have just carried on and tried to run again a couple of times. And it turns out my injury was a lot worse than it is. And I've basically had 3 or 4 weeks off of running. So nearly 4 weeks since the race. So I think it's quite clear now that I made the right decision in that moment. But at the time, it doesn't take away from the fact of how difficult it was. And I just listened to I listened to a podcast, but then I read the Substack of Killian North, who ran Cocodona 250. He finished second. He was the first male overall. And he had a glute issue, but then he had other issues. And it turns out after the race that he injured himself really badly. He actually had the ankle injury that I had. But it's going to keep him out of something. He was doing the most competitive, like over 100 miles and all these sort of races. And he's going to have the surgery, which is going to take him out for like nearly a year of these big races. And it was all because he carried on after the last 60 miles with this injury. He talks about how, he still won the race as the male, finished second overall. And you might look at it, maybe it was worth it in the moment. But then he says that in hindsight, there's no way it was worth it. He wants to still be running in his 50s, he mentions in his Substack. Making those decisions in those moments can't be putting yourself in there. If the currency you have to win a race potentially is all in, is being injured, it just shouldn't be worth it. We're already pushing our body to the extreme, to the limits, thinking that it's a good idea to do that isn't. But it's quite romantic, isn't it? There was a video of a runner doing Cocodona. He was like leaning sideways. He was like, and it's just crazy. You see these people and you talk about David Goggins and the blood, and they're all running for injuries, and it's very romantic, and we think it's heroic. And it might be. But I think we can also look at it and realize that it's very short-term thinking. You're not looking at the long game. But that doesn't take away the fact, even though I read this and I was like, yeah, Killian, you made me look at this. This is how it is. If he's talking about this and he pushed on and he regrets it massively. That could be me. If I pushed on, I could have been out for a year, but we don't know. I might have finished and be like, oh, I finished the race, but do I really want to finish the race being injured? Probably not. Because I was injured no matter what. I've been out for nearly 3 or 4 weeks. I've just done a couple of runs over the last 2 days to run, walk, been seeing a physio. But it could have got worse with, my body shaking and stuff like this. So it got me wondering, like, why, and this is an ultra running perspective, but this happens in all areas of our lives where we push on when we know we should probably pull out. And I've just been on a podcast today talking about this, about how we can be in a career, we can be in a relationship, we can just do this. And it's a sunk cost fallacy. It's doing something continuously because of all the time and the effort that you've done and not being able to look at something objectively, just being subjective and be like, this is it. And we just continue and we just stay in the same job. We just stay in the same relationship. We just stay in the same moment, despite the fact it's not good for us. It's the same as the race. People continue in these races and push through an injury, push themselves to the ultimate limits, despite it causing long-term damage to the health. And so what can we do to overcome that? What can we change in that moment? A lot of this can be done beforehand. And this is things that I've spoken about previously. It's about preempting those situations that are difficult. Set the boundaries and the discipline beforehand. Be disciplined with what you're willing to do to make it happen. I'm not willing to get injured. Does that mean I won't be able to do 100 miles? Probably not, but I'm still going to continue. I'm still trying. I've got one in November. And I honestly thought a few weeks ago that maybe I just won't do 100 miles. Maybe it's just stay away from them because, I've done 3 now and not finished. I used to think I was this person who's grit, who'd get to the end at all costs. Now it turns out I'm not. But does that mean I shouldn't run them? I don't know. You get this doubt that creeps in. And I need to overcome this doubt for the race in November. I'm not going to run for an injury, but I need to be able to recognize when things get tough, the difference. So yeah, what we can do is look at things objectively. We can be like, okay, what would you tell a friend in that situation? If you could look back and zoom all the way out and you could see it, or if you're watching a movie, I really like this one. If someone was watching a movie of this playing out, what would they be screaming at the screen? It's so obvious. And you look back now and it's so obvious. What would you scream? And I think that's a great way to sort of look at these sort of situations. You'd be like, quit your job. Come on, man. What are you doing? You only live once. Why would you waste your time doing that? It doesn't matter. You've spent 10 years doing it. We're going to waste another 50. But we don't do that, do we? We don't think like that. But I hope you can sort of take away from this that doing hard things is okay. Like, it's been pretty hard. I've been quite quiet on this. Obviously, there's lots of things going on. I've been really busy. But I think as individuals, when it's so easy, you hear these, people go, oh, look at it. Look at this challenge or this failure and don't see it as a failure, reframe it, all this sort of stuff. And you think, oh, does that mean that they just don't feel bad about it? Well, no, definitely not. I've had been waking up really early, thoughts racing through my head, being like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this in my life? And why am I talking about it? Why do I share this? And would I change it? I don't think so. I don't think I would want to change anything. It would be nice to finish one of these 100-mile races at one point. And I will, probably, before I die. Might just have to walk one. But to be fair, I basically tried to walk it last month. But we didn't get there. And I hope from this is just a bit of a recap. What you can get from all of this about doing hard things is that failure when you do hard things and you step out of your comfort zone is inevitable. It doesn't mean it doesn't feel terrible, even when you learn all these tools and these mindset tools and all this sort of stuff. But you just keep failing forward. Okay. You just go, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? You just keep going because when you don't really have another choice. I'm in another race. I'm going to train. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try and finish. Okay. And I would hope. Normally it's third time lucky. You don't really hear fourth time lucky, do you? I think, is it because people give up after 3 times? If they don't get it, they're just like, oh yeah, this isn't for me. What am I going to be like, 9th time lucky? Anyway, it's a good job that the next one is like one of the hardest ones out of all of the ones that I've tried. The next one's difficult, so I need to be fit. And I'm going to keep you updated. This podcast is going to continue. I'm going to be going over some stuff about mindset biases over the next few weeks and how we can be biased at work. And also, I think an important one that I haven't really spoken much about is AI, my relationship with AI and my relationship with social media. I have a bit of social media presence, but I actually don't use it, funny enough. But I'm going to go into detail about why I don't use it, what I do instead, and how we can prepare our mindset with AI. Because the next few years, whether we like it or not, the workplace is going to change. And you have to be open to change. You have to be open to the AI. And you have to focus on building the skills that are going to make you valuable. Because I think it's going to be a big wake-up call to a lot of us, where the workforce is just going to completely change. But I think people who get ahead now and build the tools and build the skills are going to be able to sort of ride the wave. And hopefully things don't just end up as bad as what, some people are sort of predicting. But we'll find out. And I'll hopefully give some insights onto what some of my thoughts are and what tools that you can sort of take away. But this is a short one this week. I just wanted to get it out there. I'm going to start with a new sort of project with this sort of podcast. And hopefully these are some ideas that you can sort of take away with you. But thank you so much. And I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you.